In the sands of Egypt, beneath layers of time and silence, lies a truth that could reshape everything we know about Christianity. The Gospel of Mary Magdalene wasn't lost by accident. It was hidden, buried by those who feared what it revealed about the woman they tried to erase from history. For nearly 2,000 years, Mary Magdalene has been painted as a repentant sinner, a reformed prostitute who found redemption at Jesus' feet. But what if this story was a lie? What if she was actually the most trusted disciple, the keeper of secret teachings, the one Jesus chose to carry forward his deepest wisdom? The Gospel of Mary Magdalene shatters 2 millennia of carefully constructed narratives. Within its damaged pages lies evidence of a Christianity we were never meant to see, one where women held spiritual authority, where knowledge was more sacred than faith, and where Mary herself stood as the bridge between the human and the divine. The papyrus was discovered in 1896, tucked away in an antique dealer's collection. But it would take decades before scholars dared to translate what lay within. The Church had already decided Mary's fate centuries before. She would be the repentant sinner, not the spiritual leader. When the first translations emerged, they revealed something shocking. Mary wasn't just another follower. She was the disciple who understood Jesus' teachings better than anyone else. The other apostles came to her for guidance, recognizing her unique connection to the Master's deepest truths. The text begins with a scene that turns everything upside down. After Jesus' death, the disciples are afraid and confused. They don't know how to continue his work. But Mary steps forward, not as a grieving follower, but as someone who carries the keys to understanding. Peter, traditionally seen as the rock upon which the church was built, reveals his jealousy and fear. He questions Mary's authority, asking why Jesus would share secrets with a woman that he didn't share with them. This isn't just about gender, it's about spiritual worthiness. Mary's response cuts to the heart of early Christian controversy. She doesn't defend herself with emotion or pleading. Instead, she shares a vision, a direct revelation from Jesus himself about the nature of reality and the soul's path to salvation. The vision she describes is unlike anything in the canonical Gospels. Jesus doesn't speak of sin and redemption. Instead, he teaches about the soul's imprisonment in matter and its journey towards spiritual freedom. This is Gnostic Christianity, knowledge as salvation, not faith. Mary's Jesus reveals that the material world is an illusion, a trap that keeps souls bound to suffering. True salvation comes through gnosis, direct knowledge of divine reality. This teaching threatened everything the early church wanted to establish about authority and control. The other disciples struggled to accept Mary's account, not because they doubt Jesus spoke to her, but because they fear what it means. If Mary has access to secret teachings, if she understands truths they cannot grasp, then their own authority crumbles. Andrew speaks first, calling Mary's vision strange and different from Jesus' usual teachings, but Levi defends her, recognizing that Jesus loved Mary more than all the other disciples. This isn't romantic love, it's spiritual recognition of her unique capacity for understanding. The text reveals a Christianity that valued inner knowledge over institutional authority. Mary represents a tradition where women could be spiritual teachers, where direct revelation mattered more than apostolic succession, where truth came through experience, not doctrine. The Gospel's fragmentary nature tells its own story. Pages are missing, torn away by time,
or perhaps by those who wanted to silence its message. What survives gives us glimpses of a lost Christianity that honored women's spiritual authority. Church fathers like Irenaeus and Tertullian launched fierce attacks against Gnostic texts and communities. They couldn't tolerate teachings that suggested salvation came through knowledge rather than faith, or that women could hold spiritual authority equal to men. The Gospel of Mary survived because someone believed it was too important to lose. Hidden in a jar, buried in desert sand, it waited through centuries of silence until the world was ready to hear Mary's voice again. Modern scholars have debated the text's authenticity, but its spiritual impact transcends historical questions. It offers a window into early Christian diversity, showing us traditions that were silenced but never completely destroyed.
The Gospel challenges our assumptions about Jesus' inner circle. It suggests that his closest disciples weren't just the 12 men named in canonical texts, but included women who understood his teachings in ways others could not. Mary's authority in this text comes not from appointment or election, but from spiritual capacity. She sees what others cannot see, understands what others cannot grasp, receives what others cannot receive. This is charismatic authority in its purest form. The vision she shares describes the soul's encounter with cosmic powers that govern material existence. These aren't demons or devils, but aspects of reality itself that can trap consciousness in cycles of suffering and illusion. When the soul recognizes its true nature, its divine origin and spiritual destiny, these powers lose their hold. Freedom comes through knowledge, not through sacrifice or salvation by another's death. This is radically different from Orthodox Christianity. The Gospel's emphasis on direct spiritual experience threatened institutional control. If individuals could access divine truth through their own inner vision, what need was there for priests, bishops, or church hierarchy? Mary represents the feminine principle in spirituality: intuitive wisdom, direct knowing, receptive consciousness that can receive divine revelation. This isn't about biology, but about spiritual capacity that transcends gender categories. The other disciples' resistance to Mary's teaching reflects broader cultural fears about women's spiritual authority. If women could receive divine revelation, interpret sacred text, and lead spiritual communities, traditional power structures would collapse. The Gospel's survival suggests that some early Christians refused to accept the narrow orthodoxy that emerged victorious. They preserved alternative texts, maintained different practices, kept alive memories of a more inclusive spiritual path. Archaeological discoveries at Nag Hammadi revealed that the Gospel of Mary was part of a larger collection of alternative Christian texts. These communities saw themselves as guardians of Jesus' authentic teachings, not heretical rebels. The theological implications are staggering. If Mary's version represents authentic Christian teaching, then centuries of church doctrine about women's roles, salvation's nature, and spiritual authority need complete reconsideration. Modern feminist theologians have embraced the Gospel of Mary as evidence that early Christianity honored women's spiritual gifts. But the text's significance goes beyond gender politics. It challenges our understanding of how divine truth is transmitted and received. The Gospel suggests that Jesus' most advanced teachings were given privately to those who could understand them. Mary belonged to this inner circle not because of favoritism, but because of spiritual maturity. Her ability to receive and interpret divine visions placed Mary in the tradition of biblical prophets and seers. Like Miriam, Deborah, and Huldah before her, she served as a conduit for divine communication. The text's emphasis on overcoming ignorance and achieving true knowledge reflects the influence of Greek philosophical traditions on early Christianity. This isn't simple faith, but sophisticated spiritual psychology. Mary's teaching about the soul's liberation offers hope for individual spiritual transformation. Unlike Orthodox Christianity's emphasis on collective salvation, this path requires personal effort, inner work, and direct spiritual experience. The Gospel's fragmented state mirrors our own incomplete understanding of early Christian diversity. What we have are glimpses, fragments, hints of rich theological traditions that were suppressed but never entirely lost. Contemporary interest in the Gospel of Mary reflects our hunger for authentic spiritual experience in an age of institutional crisis. People seek direct connection with divine reality, not mediated through hierarchical authority structures. The Gospel of Mary offers more than historical curiosity. It provides a map for spiritual transformation that transcends religious boundaries. Its vision of direct divine knowledge speaks to seekers across all traditions who hunger for authentic spiritual experience. Join our community of seekers. Subscribe for more truths hidden in plain sight. But Mary's most profound teaching isn't contained in any surviving fragment. It's written in the silence between the words, in the courage required to seek truth beyond comfortable beliefs. Stay with us till the end, and you'll discover the mystery buried beneath history. If this resonates with your soul, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe right now.
Here is the secret that church fathers feared most. Mary Magdalene wasn't just a disciple who received special teachings. She was the living embodiment of the divine feminine principle that Jesus came to restore. Her gospel reveals that salvation isn't about escaping the material world, but about recognizing the sacred within it. Not about submitting to external authority, but about awakening to the divine authority within ourselves. Mary's true identity was never hidden in ancient texts. It was hidden in plain sight, in every woman who dares to claim her spiritual power, in every seeker who chooses knowledge over blind faith, in every soul that recognizes its own divine nature. The Gospel of Mary isn't just about the past. It's a blueprint for spiritual revolution that continues today.